What's up, guys? I finally have my camera back. I get to do my first freaking video on my health and nutritional videos that I talked about on Instagram that I posted. Because looking great obviously is cool, but to me health is way more important. It's why I started out my whole fitness journey, because I felt like shit, and a lot of why I felt so freaking cruddy was because of sugar. So the first video I'm gonna do is about sugar and your brain, how it negatively affects your brain, why I think that you should cut it out, ways to help you cut it out, and I'm just gonna explain it a little bit. I'm not a scientist who does a lot of research on this, but I want to continue to do more research and always share new stuff that I learn with you guys, but I think this is great to start out with. So let's get into this. Let me explain it, why it's so bad for you. I'm gonna help you guys out. I really hope you enjoyed this video. I hope that you think it's informational. I'm not gonna be too silly in this. I'm gonna be for real and serious and spread some knowledge. So enjoy. So sugar is just a class of carbs, and there's different types of sugars, so I'm going to touch on 3 of those. There is glucose, fructose, and maltose. Maltose is basically what you find in all your high starch foods like cereal, grains, sweet potatoes, beer, molasses. Not really a sugary or sweet sugar, but it is high glycemic, so people with diabetes do have to be careful about how much of those types of foods that they're intaking, but they probably already know that. I will get into a little bit later why I feel like you shouldn't have a high diet consisting of grains anyways, but not now. Then we have glucose. Glucose is basically your blood sugar levels. It naturally occurs in our body, and it is what makes you feel hungry. If you have low glucose levels, that means it's time to eat again. Glucose is regulated by insulin. Insulin is a hormone in your pancreas. Basically, insulin's job is to make sure that it spreads glucose throughout your bloodstream. It helps your brain function properly as well as your muscles. So if you eat a bunch of carbs before you work out, insulin does its job and it spreads the glucose that's from the carbs to your bloodstream, so you have energy for your workout. So the insulin also does the job of storing the glucose in between your meals to use that as energy. So basically its job is to maintain your blood sugar levels at a good functioning healthy level. If you have insulin resistance going on, which I will get into later, that is what spikes up high blood sugar levels, which is totally unhealthy. Let's get into how you could have a high blood sugar level. We have fructose. Fructose is naturally in fruit. So a lot of people argue that maybe you could eat too much fruit, but what I actually found out was that just one example of high fructose corn syrup, which is the added sugars they put into things, to equal out how much high fructose corn syrup is in 1 can of Coke, you would have to eat 6 cups of strawberries to kind of spike up that blood level at an unhealthy level, which is insane. Most people are not gonna eat 6 cups of strawberries a day, but just think about how many freaking Cokes people have in a day. It's crazy. The added sugars are added into Cokes and waters, and obviously all the cookies and the cakes and the brownies and the candies to make everything taste sweeter. But a lot of people don't even realize how much added sugar is in things that don't even need tons of added sugar, like granola bars, yogurt, breads and jams and jellies, so those things won't spoil. And that is why it's really important, first of all, just to read the nutrition label and to go organic and buy as much natural, unprocessed food as you can. So those are the main 3 types of sugars that I wanted to touch on and what each of them does in food and in your body. So with sugar, it says that the average American eats 32 tablespoons of sugar a day, 8 of those teaspoons of sugar being added sugar, which is the worst kind. Facts for y'all about added sugars and why they're so terrible for you: it leads to a damaged liver because it builds up bad bacteria in your gut, and your gut acts up for 80% of your immune system. I don't think most people know that. So that's not good. It's damaging your gut. It leads to high cholesterol levels, heart diseases, strokes. It leads to you feeling tired and weak, and the list goes on and on about that. And cancer cells actually thrive on added sugars. If you don't have a high diet of sugars, this can prevent cancer for the future. The added sugars is what leads to type 2 diabetes, obesity, tooth decay, headaches, just fatigue, just not feeling good. It makes you feel super sluggish. A lot of people don't know that if they do have diabetes or they get really sick, just changing your diet tremendously and cutting out a lot of these added sugars can make you feel tremendously better really quickly. They did a study on children who cut added sugars out of their diet just for 9 days, showed a dramatic improvement in they previously had high cholesterol and high blood sugar levels, and those went down. So it goes to show you that if you freaking change your diet, it doesn't take that long to start seeing changes in your body. So that is my little rant on added sugars. I think people need to start paying more attention about what kind of sugars they're putting into their body and how many grams they're actually eating a day. Let's just go into how sugar works, how it is addictive, and the effects that it has on your brain. So basically what sugar does is it activates your sweet receptors. You have sweet receptors in your gut and in your brain, but today we're focusing on your brain. So the sweet receptors are activated and it goes to your cerebral cortex, which goes straight to your reward system. That is your dopamine. Your dopamine levels is the reward system, and it basically answers the question, should I do this again? Should I keep eating these sweets? And that is most likely the reason why normal people cannot just eat half a cookie. They go back for 3 or 4 cookies, right? So it's great that we have dopamine in our brain because it tells us too, should we keep eating the spoiled rotten food? No, we don't eat it. But what sucks, actually, I found out, is that broccoli does not trigger your dopamine to tell you to keep eating more freaking broccoli. Sucks, right? So you really gotta tell yourself those veggies are good for you. So over-consuming sugar is what leads to the addiction because your dopamine starts acting like a drug. You really start to get addicted to the sugar. You're over-activating your dopamine, so you have a loss of control when it comes to turning down sugars. Your tolerance for sugar builds up, so your brain just wants more and more and more of the sugars if that's what your diet is mainly consisting of. So you turn into like a sugar junkie, I guess you could say. You're not giving your brain a chance to level out, versus if you have sugar in moderation, your dopamine levels are able to go up. They have that sugar high, but then you just go back to normal because your body is so used to eating the healthy food that it likes to have because it knows that it's good for you. If you're constantly only feeding it sugar, processed food, simple carbs, that's all that your brain is gonna want. It's not gonna want to feed you the healthy food and tell you that that's what you need. I do believe in sugar in moderation. I actually deprived myself of sugar in, I think it was about 2 months, and as soon as I had just 1 lick of icing, my brain would not stop thinking about sugar for like 2 freaking days. It was insane. So personally, I've decided that I do treat myself once a week to a sugary macaroon on a Sunday if I feel like it, just because I don't want to completely deprive myself of those sugars and feel like I can't get sugar out of my brain for a few days. Let's talk about how sugar negatively affects the brain. First of all, it messes with your memory and impairs your learning skills. This is really, really, really important for children. This is why people emphasize having a high quality nutritional breakfast and not just loading kids up with a sugary cereal, because what happens when you are just having sugar for breakfast is causing the resistance to the insulin. So what happens if you feed a kid a breakfast that's just full of high sugars and nothing really nutritional? The sugar starts to cause a resistance to insulin, which means insulin can't do its job properly, and part of insulin's job is to get those brain cells functioning, so your body literally starts to slow down, which is no bueno. The sugar prevents your brain cells from being able to communicate, which means not being able to listen properly to whatever a teacher is telling them. If you've eaten a healthy meal, you know how much better you feel, versus when you have that sugar high that might make you feel super high and full of energy, but the come down, you're just thinking about sugar, and that's what your brain wants to function on. Instead of it functioning on a healthy meal, really fueling your brain. And I just feel like that's really, really important for parents to learn for their kids. Sit down, take the time to feed them a good breakfast and a healthier alternative to a cereal, healthier yogurt, things like that. But we'll get into that. Also, what sugar does is it makes you more prone to mood swings. It does this because it sucks up all the B vitamins in your body, and B vitamins is, well, a deficiency of B vitamins can make you feel depressed, it can make you feel weak, angry. I'm sure that you felt mood swings when you start to feel hangry. So it is normal for a little bit, but it is not normal to constantly have mood swings like that have nothing to do with if you're hungry or not, right? And one of the last links that I found about sugar in your brain is that it actually is directly linked to Alzheimer's. The link that they have found that sugar has to Alzheimer's was almost as strong as the link that they have of sugar and diabetes. What they found out is that sugar robs your brain of these brain cells that fight off these toxic proteins that actually, if you have more of these toxic proteins in your brain, that's what slowly starts to cause dementia and leads to Alzheimer's and not being able to retain any information. And I don't know about y'all, but I do not want Alzheimer's. I want to be able to remember all my kids, my grandkids, everything about the world when I'm chilling in 90, you know? So those are just a few of the things about sugar in the brain. I want to give you guys some pointers, some tips on how you can either cut out sugar or ways that help you beat the sugar cravings, right? I started out my fitness journey cutting out a lot of the grains and pastas because I had a gallbladder issue, developed gallstones. One of the first things that I read was to cut out gluten. So I did that. I didn't realize how sluggish and how bad all that gluten was. A lot of the pastas I was freaking eating a few times a week, and bagels every morning for breakfast with tons of cream cheese on it. I was so used to having that I didn't even know that that could possibly be the trigger of why I felt like crap. Like I said before, it does have lots of sugars in it. So my number one pointer to you guys about cutting sugars, even just the processed food and all the things that aren't so great for you, start slow. I think that slow and steady is what maintains a healthy lifestyle. I'm freaking big into that. Do not cut out everything all at once because you're just gonna rebound. You're gonna be constantly thinking about sugar because your body is so used to functioning on that type of food. So I would say to you guys, if you eat 5 times a day, let's just say 3 out of 5 meals, you're gonna change it up. So for breakfast, instead of on the go, the muffins, the bagels that you're getting, or cereals, try to replace that with a healthy oatmeal instead of a high sugary Starbucks drink that is actually not full of caffeine really at all, just tons of sugars. Try out a new coffee, find a creamer that doesn't have a lot of sugar, or then maybe for a snack, if you're used to having a really fruity, not so good granola bar, look at a healthier alternative for granola bar. If you have breads in every single meal, like a sandwich every single meal, try to cut the breads out. I think this would be an interesting video to put up foods that I used to eat versus what I eat now, because the foods I used to eat were not so healthy. That would be a really good one for you guys, just so you can see nutrition labels and really see what is in the food that you're eating, because sometimes they like to freaking label it that it's healthy, no added sugars and stuff, but then there's just tons of other bad crap. But that's for another video. Tip number 2 I have is drink lots of water. You should be doing that anyways, but that's just gonna help you feel better in general. Tip number 3 is find a good stevia. Don't go with the Truvia that they have. That's actually been found that it's not even good for you. So buy a good stevia at the store. If you're feeling a little sugar cravings, buy some tea and put a stevia in a cup of tea and drink that a few times throughout the day. It really will help with the cravings. Tip number 4, invest in a really good local raw honey, not just one on the shelf that probably has lots of added sugars in it anyways and isn't even much honey as it is processed crap. Spend that $8 to $10 on a really good honey. Add that to tea if you would like. Add that onto some plain yogurt, some plain oatmeal. It is just so much better for you than anything else. You could also flavor things with a little bit of cinnamon if you would like, as well as the stevia that I mentioned. Those are also really good alternatives. It's gonna be really hard to cut out the sugars, I know, because it's really an addiction, like all the things that I mentioned, but I promise you can do it. Start creating healthier habits, find healthier alternatives. I will put up some podcasts that I found that I listen to that teach us all about why sugar is terrible for us. Just look up some of the diseases that are linked to sugar, and you probably don't want to get those diseases when you get older. You want to start living a healthy life, right? It's possible. It's going to be hard, but if you just remember why you're cutting down on the sugar, to feel better about yourself and to feel motivated, because if you have a high diet that's consisting of a lot of sugar, you're not even gonna feel motivated to want to go to the gym or to want to eat healthy. It's totally possible. I did it. You can do it, I promise. Slowly, I'm telling you guys, if you slowly cut out the sugars and the processed foods, you're gonna do it. You can make this a maintainable lifestyle, and it's worth it, you know? Sugar in moderation is fine. Like I said, you don't want to deprive yourself too much because then you'll binge eat on sugar, but you also don't want it to be your constant lifestyle. That's all that your body knows, because it's just totally unhealthy, totally terrible for you. So I hope that you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, please give it a thumbs up. Helps bring traffic to my channel, like I mentioned, and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss videos. You never know, maybe you don't see a Facebook or Instagram post. Yeah, I hope this helped you guys and that you really enjoy it. All right, goodbye, love bugs. Have a good day.